everyone. Welcome to M&J's Hobby Corner. It's our little chat corner here. And this is where Julie and I have a chance to sit down, relax, and kind of chat with you guys and talk gaming, right? And we also use this bi-weekly series to update you guys on what's going on in the studio, what kinds of games are going to be coming up next, and all that stuff. So be sure to check us out on Sundays. It's a bi-weekly series that we have. So Oathmark week, that was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, was it ever?
Yeah. And I think I got more fun after we got better at the rules. Like,
oh yeah, well of course.
yeah. I think I know that's kind of.
And once you can remember the rules, and you don't have to think about it so hard. It's much smoother too.
Yes, right. So our third game was a lot more fun.
Oh yeah.
The scenario was really nice too.
The scenario was really hard.
It was hard, yeah.
It was hard, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
Now, what'd you think of the second scenario with the Oathmarks? Where
I
you
loved
had
that
to...
one. That was my
Yeah,
favorite.
did you?
Well, it's the one I won, but I mean, that's not why it was my favorite.
Yeah, she likes it because she won.
No, but that's not why. That was the most fun scenario to me.
Was it?
That was the one I liked the
interesting.
best. Yeah.
I found that scenario to be hard for the defender, and I don't know if it's because we're so new to the rules that, you know, there were mistakes in that game, obviously.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I don't know, I found it a little bit harder for me as a defender.
For you as the defender, yeah. I can see where you would say that, yeah.
But again, we only play 6 turns, and that does make it hard.
That does make a difference. It does. It would make a difference.
But the third scenario, the bridge scenario, we were playing on our hand-painted table.
Yeah, awesome.
And, you know, I really loved that scenario. I thought that we probably should play it again.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
And see and really see if the defender maybe gets a chance to.
Right.
Well, actually, I won that game.
Oh yeah, you won that game. Yeah, you won 2 out of 3. So you are the winner.
Yeah. I think the attacker in that sense has it a little bit harder. Like if you have a kingdom that has elves and dwarves, because their troops are so expensive point-wise, they're tougher, right? Goblins, I think the goblin strength is in numbers.
Yes.
Right?
And for that game.
Yes.
That's important. See, that's where you have to strategize where you want when you're building your army.
Right.
What you want to do.
And who you're going to kill first off so that you can narrow down their number.
Tell everyone what our news is.
Oh, yes. Well, about Oathmark. Julie and I have been talking, and of course, it's a game that we're very new at. We barely scratched the surface with Oathmark Week.
Oh, really?
And really, it was only our third game where we actually had a little bit more of a grip with the rules.
Right.
And we want to get better at that game because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And also, we've had a lot of interest.
Yes.
In the game.
Yeah,
we have a lot of people that have expressed a huge interest
in Oathmark.
Like us in Oathmark. So, I think it's a great idea. We're going to
start a new mini series or a series rather. It'll probably be bi-weekly, but it will be dedicated exclusively to Oathmark. And that series will be games. Basically, we're going to play a game bi-weekly and continue our campaign that we never finished. We're going to continue that campaign and turn it almost into a story, kind of a narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Series.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we actually tell a story with it.
Right.
So we got to sit down and kind of plan it a little bit. But we are going to continue with Oathmark. That's going to live on its own playlist. There is a playlist for Oathmark already. And that's where Julie and I will put it. And don't forget that the Oathmark Undead expansion is coming out. I already pre-ordered it. And
of course he did.
Of course I did.
Of course he did.
Can't miss Undead. And so we're going to review the Oathmark rule book, expansion book for Undead. And there's a lot of things in Battlesworn. We never even touched Battlesworn.
Yeah.
So we want to experiment with battle honors and
Yeah.
some of the river scenarios.
There is so
There
much
is so much.
because there's so many different kingdoms. No.
Yeah, well,
What do you,
scenarios.
regions?
Scenarios and regions.
Regions is what I'm talking about because in each region are your different types of armies and or whatever
Right, of
that
troop
you're gonna.
types.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's so many different ones
Combinations,
that the
yeah.
scenarios would change every,
Yeah,
like
that's
crazy.
true.
Even
Yeah.
if you played the same scenario but with different regions,
Different
it would
kingdoms.
change
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how McCullough designed the undead for this game, and whether or not you're going to be able to play with a necropolis, right? You have like a whole undead kingdom or a whole undead city,
Yeah,
cities.
that's his thing. That's your thing. I know.
That's not her thing.
That's not my thing. No.
And they're going to battle with the elves and other things.
So next up is Hobby Talk, where we're going to be discussing different types of clay for sculpting terrain, right? Why don't you?
Okay, this is Hobby Talk is a segment that we're introducing into all of our bi-weekly talks, and usually it's something that Julie kind of, she may have segments that she brings up as a new war gamer, and for this week we want to talk about clays. In the future, I'm going to be talking about how I use clays for wargaming terrain. I've been sculpting for a few years now, about 8 years. I had my own little sculpting business where I used to sell my sculptures. I used to make little dogs. You remember that?
And you still would.
And I still do. I have a special Facebook page dedicated to my sculpting. And I usually sculpture people's dogs. And I have a lot of wildlife art. But as I've been sculpting, I've been learning a lot of things about scale. I've been learning a lot of things about armature building.
Which I find interesting.
You find that
Yeah,
interesting?
I do.
Well,
I really
a lot
do.
of people do. The whole thing, idea of armatures, building armatures for your sculptures has been critical for me to learn sculpting. And I started with fantasy sculpting. I tried to make my own miniatures. It's very difficult. I'm not a professional sculptor, but I do have some examples here.
Very, very good. Don't listen to him.
So I want to show you guys and show you the different clays that I use and that I've used for terrain in the past. This is not a very easy clay to use. This is a clay that's not, it's very good. It's a resin clay. You need a lot of water with it. It has a hardener and a resin component.
So why is it so hard to use?
It's very
Does
hard.
it dry too fast? Or?
Well, no, it's very, very sticky.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you guys that have used green stuff in the hobby, you know how sticky that is. It's like gum. Well, this is more like marshmallow when you first mix it.
Okay, yeah, that's all you had to say.
It's very sticky.
I can just imagine making marshmallow crispy.
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
But it's a clay that is very strong when it started playing around.
So from a more experienced.
Yeah, more experienced kind of modeling. You know, this stuff is great, but it's hard to use. Then you have, in the resin clay category, epoxy sculpt. And I use this as a mixer. I mix this with green stuff and baking clay. And it changes the properties and makes a very nice sculpting mix.
Okay.
And I have used this to make small, like castle walls for 15 millimeter. I've used it for making, well, a variety of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
You know. And then the next thing is Super Sculpey.
Oh, that's a name I know well.
Yes, this is my favorite sculpting clay. It comes in 3 different classes. I use all 3. There's like the firm, then there's the classic Sculpey, which is a little softer, and then there's the really soft stuff, which is the white stuff. What I do is I mix these, and I make my own little kind of paste with them. And I'll introduce some green stuff into it, whatever. It depends on what I'm trying to do. And the nice thing is that when you mix it with green stuff, you don't have to bake it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can see
because the hardener in the green stuff activates the hardeners in this clay,
right?
And it hardens
like baking it,
like if you bake
put it in the, yeah.
And sometimes what I'll do if I want to really make sure, if I'm making, let's say, a tree, a special like tree terrain or something, I will harden it with the hot gun, with the heat gun.
Okay.
Instead of baking it.
Too. Sure.
Okay. Now, the trick to using clays in any kind of terrain is to learn how to work with armatures. That's my opinion. Yeah. You have to have some kind of skeletal framework for that clay to stick to. So if I'm making, let's say, a castle wall, I will first make an armature out of cardboard with tin foil. Tin foil is excellent because clay sticks to it. And when you put it, if you are going to bake it, that tin foil heats up. Of course, if you're going to bake it, you might not want to use cardboard. You're going to want to use wire or some other material. But what it does is that when you bake it, it hardens from the inside out.
Okay.
The clay does. So you get a nice, strong structure. So when we look at terrain and clays and things like that, I will show that stuff. And then I use a wide variety of different things for clays. Like one of these is a glue. You can actually glue clay to things like the armatures.
You know what? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is it. And the nice thing about this glue is you can bake it.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't bubble up, especially made for baking clay. And you can like glue, for example, I would glue some of the clay that I'm sculpting. Let's say if I'm making a wall. Okay. I will glue it to the tinfoil to make an even harder bond. Right. And then bake it. And it's all bakeable. Yeah. So. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think so. And there is things like milliput, for clays for making walls and rocks. I have my little rock collection. And I use this to actually texture my clay. Very easy. So you don't have to like sculpture the rock. You just like texture it. Very easy. You're done. And so that's something that I'll show in the future.
Yay, you got to the part that I was waiting for.
Were ya?
Yeah.
Well, this is a little dog that I made a long time ago. And this is, you know, if I actually make this a little smaller, a little more dynamic pose, I can actually put a halfling on there. Could. You know, it would be a cool... this was a mixture of Sculpey baking clay with green stuff and Avi's. That's this clay right here that I showed you guys.
Now, what about this one? This is one of my favorites.
All right.
Your ships are amazing.
This is another kind of modeling that I will show eventually. And when we play Navy games, I don't buy Navy ships. I love making them. And so this is sort of a fictitious ship for wargaming. So, yeah, this is a lot harder, though. It's a lot more advanced modeling. It's really hard.
This is sculpting more than
this is more sculpting than anything. Yeah. This is an old wraith that I made.
I love that one.
Yeah, this is.
And I love this bear
for Halloween. And this was made from Sculpey baking clay. This model is about 4 years old now. A lot of people worry about cracking, the clay cracking, and so they don't want to use clay for terrain because they're worried about cracking and everything. If you've worked with clays long enough, you know that clays, the technology for making clays has increased so much. Okay. Sculpey is wonderful stuff. And if you mix it with green stuff or you mix it with some of the resin clays, you're going to make some really interesting sculpting pastes. And this is another guy. This one's 6 years old. And this one is made from Sculpey clay with a little bit of resin clay.
I remember when you made that one.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then my little
one. I love that one.
Anubis.
Yeah, I love that one.
I was actually making this for an Osprey publishing a game called of Gods and Mortals.
Okay.
And these were going to be the gods, and I was going to sculpt all the gods and then have human figures with them. And then this was my attempt at zombie dogs.
That's pretty cool.
Zombie dogs. And this was purely green stuff and avies. This has no baking clay mixed into it. There we go. Yeah, it wasn't focusing very good. And this was my first attempt at really small minis. If you could hand me that Anubis again, because I think it wasn't focused very well.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that I have them focused. There we go. So, now this is large for gaming, but that's how I wanted the gods for that game.
Right.
So.
Right, which makes sense.
Okay. You will see more of that in my channel.
So what would you say is maybe your favorite kind of terrain to make with clay?
With clays? Well, certainly walls, low walls, especially 15 millimeter scales, so like the walls are smaller. Sandbags, I used to make a lot of like sandbag terrain, especially when we played 40K. But any war game that has like sandbags and stuff. And I have a whole technique for making it. And again, one of the tricks to using clay in terrain is to understanding armatures.
Right.
And knowing how to make armatures.
Now, what about like mountains or hills? You would make that with clay as well?
That's a little tougher because we're talking about a much larger piece. Now, I would use that freeform sculpt to make larger hills and things like that. But again, you need an armature. You need a good armature, a good skeleton that's going to support it. Right. And then put your clay over that.
Right. And then it's what you do with that makes it what it looks like.
For larger terrain pieces like that, I think, foam and tinfoil and things like that
probably would be smarter.
It would probably be easier and a little bit better.
Less expensive too.
Probably, yeah. This kind of clay stuff is good for very small scatter terrain. So like I make barrels and little sandbags and things for 15 millimeter. Clay works beautifully.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to look at some ruined buildings for 15 millimeters in the future with this kind of clay technique. First building the armature and then the clay over that armature.
Sounds good.
All right. That was our Hobby Talk segment. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, so our closing remarks now. We hope you enjoyed this brief segment, this brief hobby corner. Julie and I have been discussing this. What are our plans for the channel? That's kind of how we want to end this. As I've been saying, I've been trying to restructure the videos. We're trying to think more about what we include in our videos, what kinds of topics. And as a couple, as war gamers, Julie finally get your war gamer title. I'm very lucky that I have someone that will actually war game with me. So we're thinking about those things, and very soon we're going to start moving into futuristic themes, things like Kill Team. But a lot of indie games, because we're not just about those popular...
No, we really like indie games.
We really enjoy indie games. And so we're going to be looking at... there's a new indie game... There's an indie game that one of the subscribers plays that he kind of mentioned. And I looked into it, and I think it's a game that we're going to really like.
Awesome.
And it's 5 parsecs from home, or something like that. It's a futuristic game. I bought a couple of expansions. We're going to be reading it. We're going to be...
You did?
Yeah, I did. Right there. Well, they're on...
No, that's good. I'm kidding you.
Yeah, they're on Drive-Thru RPG. And these are very inexpensive rule sets. And we're going to give it a try. And these are games that don't have expensive miniatures lines that I could use the collection. We're going to be looking at Necromunda models, right, for a lot of these games. And so there's a lot of exploring coming in the future. So we're going to shift a little bit from fantasy into sort of these futuristic post-apocalyptic games. And that will bring a lot more terrain projects to the studio. So
Yeah.
You know, with health issues, if we throw in our health issues.
Yeah, both of us.
Both of us have serious health issues, and there will be some things on the 29th. We get some news on some of my health issues, and that will, of course, change. It
Yes.
could change the way we film things and how much time we spend. And
If I could just ask everybody to just say, think happy thoughts, and whatever you do, but just to think about Martin on Tuesday when we find
we have
out
we have a medical test that's we're going to be talking to my cardiologist and
about the
see
results of
about
it.
certain results, and so we're going to
what comes
see
next.
what comes next, and so that's also going to really
Sure it
determine
will.
what kinds of content we do here in the studio. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, folks, I have a lot of positive thoughts.
Yes.
And I'm hoping
Yes,
that we can
positive
continue to
thoughts.
do this. We're
We
having
will.
a ton of fun with
We
you
are.
guys. And I hope that
definitely
you
are.
guys will enjoy the content.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching, for supporting the channel.
Yes.